Hello everyone. Today I'll be reviewing the Dinka Blista Kanjo based on the 6th gen Honda Civic produced between 1995 to 2000. I'm going to be recreating the Type R trim level here, which was only available in Japan for this generation of Honda Civic. The closest thing in the United States and worldwide was the SI trim level, which I'm sure could be pretty easy to recreate as well, since they were relatively similar. About 80% as some would say, but I'm gonna do a full-on Type R build here. It's gonna be pretty easy to recreate it since it's mostly just body colored or body matched uh, parts of the car. There isn't really many crazy options here, besides maybe some white wheels and stuff like that. But I'll get into it here. I might as well show you some of the customization as well while I'm at it, in case if you guys want to do something a little different, uh, or see what's possible to do with this car. There's really a lot of stuff based from the Japanese car scene. Maybe there's people in the United States and Europe and elsewhere that do this stuff to Civics and other Japanese vehicles, but I personally haven't seen it myself or anywhere else online. But most of these are just time attack style bits that you can add to the vehicle. But as I said, it's mostly color matching some parts, so that's what I'm gonna do. You can add some visors and some nets there. The exhaust options here, they're all right. Um, I wish a little bit more could have been done with the bumpers and the exhausts. Some of these exhausts are a bit strange. They're a bit too long for my taste. Maybe that's normal for some of these builds. But for me, I just want something a little bit more factory looking, a little bit more stock. But as always, if you want to have your separate crazy build, you can do that with this car, no problem. But I'm gonna go with the chrome exhausts. You can do your usual sticker bombs and body kits here for this. There's a little vent there. I believe that's an aftermarket option. It's not really based on anything from the factory Civic. Then you have your variants here with bolts, uh, with carbon and stuff like that. Then other body kits here with more vents in the rear. But even though I'm just going for a simple style and a simple build, it's pretty easy to recreate here. As I said, I might as well just show you some of these options because really there's a lot of possibilities with this car. If you want to go the aftermarket route, which I'm pretty sure is very common in car meets, a lot of uh, tunes and stuff like that. Some of which are probably not illegal, but I mean people probably still do them because why not? Probably like these extra events. I'm sure that's not really legal, but it's a video game, so why does it matter, right? Then you got a nice bra there in the front to keep the hood protected or maybe buzz off or something. You have your usual sticker bombs, your rust, your carbon. This hood has a lifted option. I'm sure there's a reason why that was done. For aerodynamics or something that people would do. Then you have your very nice looking aftermarket options here. I'm still very unsure if I want to choose these personally, but I'll see. Every once in a while, I go back and recustomize my vehicles, and I'll just show them on my community posts right there. For you guys to see something there, if you like it or not. The lights come stock in yellow, so I'm just gonna leave them stock. Here, I might as well show you through the liveries real quick. They're pretty nice to see. They're based on real life liveries here. Uh, you know, it's mostly just aftermarket stuff that people would do here. or copies, you know. But some of these are based on something. I will tell you that I'm not really an expert, but you know, I mean, these are still eye candy. They're very nice to look at. Uh, the resolution is high and the detail is as well. Well, the same thing I said, but even though I'm not choosing any of these, I know some of you probably will, so I might as well just give you a quick look here. I just love how the global oil looks. Each one comes with like a lot of lore and stuff like that, you know. A lot of stuff that's part of the world. Not real life, but that's inspired by real life, right? Here's your typical anime liveries. I'm sure some of you would love to put these on. With that stuff out of the way, I'm gonna show you some other stuff over here. I didn't make a custom license plate for this, but it is what it is. For the color, I'm gonna make a special yellow. Well, there's only one yellow to choose from here, and that's the closest to the sunlight yellow featured on the real life Civic. I could have done a championship white, but I feel like it looks too bright. Uh, and I'm not really sure what shade of white here is correct, if it was an ice white or not. But I'm gonna paint the whole vehicle in a yellow. I thought there was a lot more yellow options, you know, one or two, but I guess there's only just one. The bright orange looks a little bit like yellow, right? But I guess I'll just choose a regular yellow here for now. And I'll color match that. For some reason, the mirrors are a different color as well. I mean, you can do that if you want. It would have been cool if there was an option to paint the interior to add a little bit of red. A little splash of red, just like the real Type R. But you can't do that. You could add some roll cages though, which is pretty nice. Again, if you're going for that race build, you know, or that aftermarket track car type of style, you really have a fine selection here to choose from. These are well made. I don't have any complaints for these. They just fit in very well. Anyway, the roof option, for the roof options, it gives the car a bit more character. As you can see, I have more sticker bombs, you have more carbon. You know, you have your roof storage up there. Then you have, you know, a rack and some wheels. With a car like this, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can go. Not just what I'm doing, you know. What I'm doing is just very basic, but it's still inspired by something, right? It's just very basic. Here, your skirts here, they're pretty cool. Even with a few dozen options you have to choose from any category, you still really have a lot you can have fun with here, you know. Since I'm very simple myself, I really love the way the OEM wing looks. But the lifted wing right there, the raised wing, that looks pretty sick, pretty cool. The rest of these, besides a few in the bottom, are unique. Like these right here, these are pretty unique to this car. I cannot recall any vehicle that shares similar customization to this one, besides maybe one or two spoilers. But the rest of this is just very well done. If you want to do something very crazy, you could do that no problem. I probably said that a million times in a million different ways, but still. The detail is just very well done with this. Even though it's not my style, I mean, I could admit and give credit where it's due. It was very well done. You only have two options here for sun strips, but that's not a big deal. Now for the suspension here, You can add a little bit of stance or camber here. Just look at that, it looks like it's laying down or something. It's very funny. But as if, for some of you guys that know me, I'm not really a big fan of that. It just depends on the car. So I'm just gonna leave the suspension alone. For the rear, I'm just gonna color match all of that. And for the wheels, I love the stock wheels. It's a shame that I'm not allowed to paint them white, a championship white. So the closest one here is a Rally Masters. And what I'm gonna do is paint them white. Black looks pretty good. If I went the aftermarket route, I would have chose black. But white just looks very nice on here. Some of you may think, hey, it looks like a banana, but I just disagree. It's a good combination. You can add some tire lettering if you're into that, but I'm just gonna add tire bulletproofing. All that's left for me to do here is tint the windows. I'm gonna do a very light smoke, but I'm just gonna show you the differences here real quick and how dark it is. And then when I'm done here, I'm gonna discuss the interior, the performance, and all the little details that goes with this car. I really have a lot to discuss when I'm done in a bit. Detail is great and texture quality is decent. I really love how well the engine model was done. It would have been cool if there was more cosmetic customization for this, just like the SJ version of this. There is another version of the Kanjo which is a coupe, which features more customization in the engine. But the interior here, it does fit the car very well. It has that 90s, early 2000s aesthetics to it. But as I said, the texture quality isn't the best. So for those of you that play in first person, I really don't recommend it. But it's still acceptable. The rest of the car is just very well made. Speed and handling is great. The front wheels receive a lot of power, and so there's a lot of tire spinning. But besides that, when the car gets going, it performs very well. Considering that it's a front-wheel drive vehicle, it doesn't feel very stable. But it's surprising how this car doesn't spin out at all. How it doesn't give you any trouble, especially when you're going through corners and all that stuff. You can really toss it around and not worry about spinning out, as I said. As well, when you quickly brake, it does a pretty decent job at braking. It does feel unstable at times, but once you get used to it, you get very comfortable and you realize how reliable this car is. I've driven this car before quite a few times, even before recording it and doing a video on it, and I will tell you that it's very fun to drive. There are some times where you feel like you're not going to make a corner on time or that you may not have enough time to brake, uh, but really that's just not true. But, you really do have to time everything that you do when you're racing or just driving. But this car is just great. Anyway, that's all I got for today, and as always, thanks for watching.